Hi. In today's video, we're going to talk about books and publishing, the good, the bad, and the expensive. We're going to talk about the three major types of book publishing. And in a moment, we're going to talk about which of those three you probably want to go with for your books. There are three basic kinds of book publishing. You have traditional, hybrid, and self-publishing.
So in traditional, what that means is one of the big publishing houses out in the world, they give you a contract. You're going to sign a contract. You often need an agent in order to get that contract to happen. Like many of traditional publishers will not even look at your manuscript if it isn't delivered to them and pitched to them by an actual agent. You will often get an advance, even though that advance is probably fairly small, and they own everything. They own the copyright to the work, and they get to make all the decisions around the book that you've contracted that they get to publish. There's a few pros around having a book traditionally published. One is that the publisher will take all responsibility. They'll make sure that you get a professional cover, a professional editor. You can typically get better distribution, maybe even get it into bookstores. And some still consider it more prestigious. Some readers still consider a traditionally published book more prestigious than one that is not traditionally published.
Some of the cons to getting your book traditionally published is that it is a much slower process. If you want to self-publish or hybrid publish your book, you could get it all done, and a month or two later, bam, you're out there. It can take a year or more after you've given them your manuscript before your publisher actually sends it out to their distributor, through their distribution network, and for readers to actually get their hands on it. You have no say in that fantastic cover design or the edits that they make. They will be professional, and to a certain extent, they'll probably look good, but if you don't like what they went with, too bad. It doesn't matter. They don't care. They're probably not going to listen to much, if any, of your input. You no longer own your work. They own the copyright. They own the rights to do whatever they want with it. And you will earn less per book sale. It's a very small percentage per book that you actually earn in comparison to the publisher. Now, the biggest con of all is that unless you're extremely well known, a celebrity of some kind, a movie star, a big athlete, social media icon, they probably won't even consider your book, even if it's the next great thing, even if once it's out there, it'll be remembered for a century or more. If you don't have a following, they're not going to say yes.
That's right. That is the nature of publishing today.
Today, yes. It didn't used to be that way, but it is now.
No, it's definitely the way things have gone. Right. So now we have this middle ground between traditional and self-publishing called hybrid, and many, many, many different styles of hybrid publishing exist. But basically, with traditional publishing, they pay you a small advance, where in hybrid, you pay them. Okay, so it's a publishing service that you pay them however many dollars to handle all the details of getting a cover, getting editing, getting it printed, getting it distributed out there in the world. So that is, you retain the rights. Okay, so you as the author still retain the rights to it, but you're paying someone else to do all the technical stuff that is needed to have a professionally produced finished product in the form of a book. Different companies provide these services. Some even do a fair amount of marketing for you once the book is published.
Which is not true for a traditional publisher.
That is not true for traditional publishing.
Again, unless you're a major celebrity. Then they'll do some stuff for you. But
right.
If you're not, as we said in our previous video, you have to push as much as you can because they will not do much, if anything,
right.
for you at all.
Yeah, they don't do the... Traditional publishers these days do not handle the marketing for you. Where hybrid publishers, you can pay them to do various pieces of marketing. So that's one of the differences. Some of the pros, you get to keep control, right? You get help with what you need to get your book out there. And many of these companies offer like book marketing training, and they give you all these tips on how to make your book successful. So, you know, those are positive reasons why you might want to have a hybrid publisher, you know, publish your book for you.
Some of the reasons you might not want to go with a hybrid publisher is that a lot of them are totally automated. You will send in your manuscript and they will accept it. They might check it out. They may not even have someone edit it for you. They might just send it through an editing program and say, good enough. They'll just pick one of the many already selected covers they have and slap it on and then say, hey, here's your book. And it's basically what you gave them. They may not even format it correctly for you. They could just, here, we took some of your money, your book's ready, congrats, have fun, kid. The pricing varies wildly. You could spend a couple $100, or you could spend literally tens of thousands of dollars. Some of the cheap stuff a lot of the cheap stuff is terrible, and some of the cheap stuff is not that bad. A lot of the really expensive stuff, you might get some cool stuff out of that, but it could also just not have been worth nearly what you spent on it. And it's hard to know which are legit, because they all have marketing teams behind them usually. They're all really good at saying, oh yeah, you want to use us, give us your money, you're going to get exactly what you want out of it. But there's no way to really know unless you talk to their previous customers, and sometimes it's not easy to do that.
Yeah, it's hard to find them. Exactly.
And in that note, the biggest con is that you could spend a lot of money, as I said, literally multiple tens of thousands of dollars, and just get a crappy product, and their marketing that they did for you wasn't very good, and you're probably never going to make your money back. Right. So,
and I've heard quite a lot of horror stories from people who spent several thousand with a hybrid publisher, and they were deeply disappointed with the result that they got. And then finally, we have self-publishing, where basically you do it all. You own all the rights. You are your own publisher. You make all the decisions, and you take all the actions necessary to go from an idea to writing, to editing, to cover design and interior design and publishing and launching and promotion and all the other, right? And again, you're in control. You retain the rights. That's a really huge pro or positive reason why you might want to do this. And the really cool thing about it is you earn the most per book sale when you do self-publishing.
You have some cons, naturally. There is a lot to learn about the publishing industry, as you might have seen in the previous video, in our next videos. There's a whole lot going on. It took you, 2-3 years before you really had your head wrapped around it?
Well, I studied it for decades, really. But when I really knuckled down and was just like, I'm going to study this continuously. I'm going to go to the summits. I'm going to go to the conventions. I'm going to read books. I'm going to do a million things to try to understand it all. Yes, I spent a few years doing all of that before I published my first book in print.
Mm-hmm. And with all of her condensed knowledge, it still took me a couple of years before I really had a solid grasp as well.
Right.
On top of that, you will need help.
Mm-hmm.
Some people recommend, they say you can make your own cover, you can edit your book. That might be true for some people. If you really take the time, again, to learn how to do it yourself, it is doable, but most people have no business doing that, and they need to hire a professional editor who is going to charge them a fair bit of money to get a proper edit done, to get a proper book cover done. These things will cost, but you want to do those things probably if you want a good product. And there's still a stigma around self-publishing. As is true with the traditional publishing of there's more prestige, there's also some who view self-publishing as, oh, you're only self-published because you couldn't get traditionally published, which may or may not be true. There's, as we've covered, there's some reasons to do self-publishing. And of course, the biggest con is it is on you if your book is successful or not. You can't blame your publisher or the people that did hybrid with you. You can't look at them and say, oh, they didn't do this right, or oh, if they'd done the cover better, like the one I wanted, it would have done well. It's completely up to you. If you do everything right, or most things right, it could sell well, or it could just completely flop if you don't do it correctly, and it is all on you.
Yep, it's all on you.
The one that most people, as we alluded to in the beginning, we are going to give you the one that we think most people probably should go with, and that is self-publishing, for the reasons already stated. It is the most accessible, and the one where you have the most control. You can reach out to different contractors that perform some of the things that hybrid publishers do, and you still retain all the control. You're not signing away the life of your story or your nonfiction off to an apathetic company that just wants to make sales, and if it doesn't make sales, oh well, we're going to hold on to the rights anyway.
Right, right. You're in total control, and like he said, you get to choose if you hire other people to assist with like editing and cover design and those sorts of things, or if you take the time and learn it yourself.
If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like. It helps the channel. Also, if there's any questions you have, go ahead and leave a comment. We'll check that out as soon as we can and give an answer to you. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you can get notified when the next video comes out. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to publish a book even if you're on a budget.